Hey there, bitches. Welcome back to And World Peace. I am your host, Maggie Gehlsen-Burnett. This week we have, such a fucking amazing guest. I'm so excited for you to listen to this conversation. We have my lovely friend, Jackie Volney, who is joining us. But before we get into her episode, I do want to mention just a couple of housekeeping items. You know the fucking drill here. The first is that And World Peace is now on Patreon. It's patreon.com/andworldpeace. This is where you can support the show on a monthly basis and get access to exclusive content. The second way you can support the show is through Spotify listener support, which is directly done through Spotify. It's just a one-time donation that you make to the show. Of course, neither of these things are required, totally optional. I'm just grateful that you're even fucking here in the first place, all right? So let's get into talking about Jackie. Jackie and I actually met working at SoulCycle, at SoulCycle Chelsea in early 2020. We were both just, aspiring artists living in New York, and what a simpler time, before we both had mortgages. But let me tell you a little bit about Jackie. So Jackie is a New York City artist. She's an actress, a singer. She accidentally found herself building a life as an entrepreneur as well in 2021. Once she allowed her passion for wellness and fitness to expand into starting the active lifestyle brand SOLAWELL, she has been on a journey of creating her own path as a multi-passionate artist ever since. She is now married and expecting her first baby, which is super exciting. Jackie has been redefining in this season what it looks like to be an artist, a business owner, a wife, and a new mom. Jackie believes who we are today does not define who we are tomorrow, thank God, and is committed to living a creative life that involves constant growing, learning, evolving, all while leaving room for surprise. And it's probably why Jackie and I are such kindred spirits. I love Jackie so much. She is just so wise beyond her years. She has such great insights and such a gift for sharing her wisdom with the world. So I hope you enjoy this episode. And without further ado, let's welcome Jackie to the show. Okay, so Jackie, thank you so much for
Hi.
taking the time. I'm so excited to chat with you. I just feel like your evolution over the last few years has been nothing short of amazing. And I
Oh,
can't wait to dive into all of the facets of you. So that being said, I want to start this off by talking about how you manage all of you are so multi-passionate and you have so many interests and so many things you are so talented at. So kind of give us an overview for those who don't know you of like all of the things that you do and how you're balancing them right now, especially being pregnant and literally about to become a mom.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for acknowledging that it has been just a wild evolution. Some things have happened not on my terms, while other things have happened, I couldn't have planned it better myself. Long story short, I spent about 10 years in New York City just so tunnel visioned in on show business.
Mm,
Um, Doing the whole musical theater trajectory, you know what I mean? Like
right.
there was no other vision for me more than like a year ahead. Everything was the next gig, the next gig. And so even in between gigs, that's where we met. We met
Yeah.
working at SoulCycle, and I had this like love for fitness and this love for wellness. And so like during that part of myself that I was exploring, like the spirituality aspect kind of came to, and like I just was like really invested in like my own personal development of being an artist and also being in the wellness space. And Soul Cycle at that time was like exclusivity at its finest. We
Mhm.
were really, really involved with that company at a time when it was like we were tight. We just had like it was a family. It was a family.
Yeah.
And I felt like that evolved into me getting into the fitness world and teaching.
Mhm.
And I was performing and traveling and all these things. And then the world shut down. And I realized I was about to turn 30 years old in May of 2020. And I don't know how to like say this. I can curse, right, on your
Oh,
podcast.
absolutely. 1000%. Yes.
It was it was the biggest mind fuck of my life. I'm just now realizing like how much it fucked me up. Like
Yeah.
turning 30 in the year 2020, like you think, "Oh my gosh, I'm 30. Like, this is where everything I've worked to up until now is supposed to like take off.
Yeah.
Or, and right up until that point, I was like in final callbacks for a Broadway show, and just everything. I felt, even though if I like didn't book it, like it was one of those things where I just felt like the momentum, things are happening.
Mhm.
Finally, 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 and then everything stopped. And I realized I hadn't planned at all for my future. I was not standing on solid ground. When everything stopped, I literally felt like I had nothing to show for it. I had
Mm.
just spent 10 years of my life eh, traveling, not saving my money,
Yeah.
like no plans, like just just full throttle in on this tunnel vision, like of show business and just wanting to be an actor. And I was just working as in the fitness industry on the side. Um, and I just thought to myself, like, there's got to be another way. Like, I was forced to expand.
Mhm.
So right off the bat, it wasn't necessarily on my terms, but to your point, I've always been multi-passionate, and I've always seen other avenues in my future, not really knowing how they would appear or be, evolve. Um, and that really was also my journey into married life. I was with Shane at that time, and we had just gotten engaged. And that was also something I really wasn't focused on at all. I was never really like thinking about getting married. Um, and so that was also like a surprise, like the biggest surprise in my life. And that saying, that Buddhist saying, if it comes, let it come. If it goes, let it go.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really, really where I was vibing with. Like, from there on, I was like, something needs to change. I need to have not necessarily like a 5-year plan, but I need to like think about future Jackie
Sure.
and what, yeah, and what. I can't keep living my life in this gig to gig to gig mindset. I'm now engaged. I have all, I want to be able to provide a little bit, things like that. So that really kind of just expanded me to think outside the box. And that's where SOLAWELL came in.
Yeah.
Around 2021 is when I launched my active lifestyle brand SOLAWELL, and I only had one product at the time. I now have two products.
Yeah.
They're
They're
found on
amazing.
they're now on Amazon, and that has been such a awesome and beautiful extension of that side of myself. And because it's doing well on Amazon, it has provided me a platform to like a jump off point. So I'm really excited to um, continue to expand, to continue to put that side of myself into it, and to see how
Yeah.
it continues to develop. And now I'm married and I'm pregnant, and
Yeah.
and still, and I'm still have my agency, and I'm still a singer, and I'm still auditioning occasionally. It's with this SAG strike and being pregnant, it's been
Yeah.
it's tough 3 years to, be an actor, but
Yeah. For
yeah,
sure.
but all in all, it does kind of feel like a whirlwind and a fabulous adventure. That I literally at any corner, I don't know what's going to come.
Yeah.
But at least I have the balls in the air, and in some way, I feel like I'm in the driver's seat of my life.
Yeah. Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. What an amazing evolution too, to, be so multi-passionate and be so multifaceted too in all of your talents and your abilities, and kind of like be able to morph them all into your life in a way that makes sense. And also it's so, what's so interesting to me about what you say is how the timing of all of this kind of just really is so perfect in a way, like even with the SAG strike, it's
Uh-huh.
sort of like, well, you're pregnant, and you get to take this time to sort of like maybe rest and just kind of be, a little bit more in your, sort of mom era, or prepping to be mom era. And I love
Mhm.
that. I just feel like you have trusted so much in maybe, an entity bigger than you, or something like that in the universe, whatever you want to call it. And I think that has just like paid dividends so much. Or it sounds like has paid a lot of dividends. So I love that. You talk a lot about how you talk about this on your, you've alluded to this on your Instagram, you talk a lot about how motherhood and becoming a wife wasn't necessarily in your quote plan. So I really want to know, how did you lean into both of those when they ultimately came to fruition?
Yes. So
What a loaded question.
it loaded, but it is truly like still something that I process occasionally.
For sure.
Um, like if I woke up right now and someone told me you were dreaming, I probably would believe them.
Yeah.
Just because I spent so like, we talk about manifesting all the time. We talk about what
Mm,
we're attracting all the time.
of
I was
course.
not manifesting this. I was not attracting this. I was, and maybe that's part of it, right? Maybe that's part of,
Right.
I was told there was so much space for it to for
Right.
something to happen because I was not getting in that way.
Yeah.
Um, so back to that quote that I mentioned, when if it comes, let it come, if it goes, let it go. When everything shut down, I went through every single emotion,
Mhm.
depression, confusion. I was frightened. I
Mhm.
was anxious. Like I really kind of lost that identity of myself.
Mhm.
Who am I if I'm not auditioning, if nobody wants me, if what's going on, if the business doesn't pick up, like who am I?
Yeah.
And I really had to acknowledge the things that were working in my life so effortlessly.
Yeah.
And I Shane came in my life and it was almost as if the universe was like, pay attention, Jackie. This is what you should be paying attention to.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where the leaning in really started
Mhm.
because it was so easy.
Mhm.
And even in the very beginning, we get in our own heads when we're dating people, especially if they're like long distance or whatever. We're like, oh, whatever,
Absolutely.
it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But everything just kept proving me wrong.
Yeah. Or love.
And the business was becoming the bad boyfriend, the toxic bad boyfriend. And like I was actually being given like an amazing partner on literally like just here it is.
Yeah.
And that's where the leaning in really began. And ever since then, it's just like you really start to realize how much you hold yourself back with your vision, right? Like my vision of being an actor and wanting to be in show business and wanting to be like an artist and involved in that way still exists, but now the room is bigger. Like now my vision is family life and having a business. How can I expand myself for me and my family, not for um an industry.
Yeah.
So I do feel like the more I leaned in and the more I let go of this like tunnel vision that I had for so long, the more I was able to become a well-rounded individual, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think that there are so many assets of my life that are like 1,000 times better and more fulfilling. But I would be remiss if I didn't say like that 28-year-old Jackie who, could just pick up, pack her bags and leave, like she's still here too. You know what I mean? So there's a way that I feel like I can continue be like bringing her with me and on this new
Right.
era, you
Yeah.
know?
Like all parts of you can coexist, even the past ones who maybe didn't get didn't get their full moment or didn't get their full time, that they maybe, that you feel like they should have. I think about that a lot as it relates to like pageantry and sort of like when people ask me, well, why didn't you compete one more time? Or, and I'm sort of like, that part is still definitely with me, but it's just, I've just evolved and allowed for expansion in other ways of my being, because what are we doing if not expanding, basically.
Absolutely. Oh
So,
yeah, you know what? Your pageant life too. I mean, the amount of time and investment you have in that world.
oh my God, it's insane.
It's
Um,
insane.
okay, so I just love hearing about all of that. And you speak about these transitions, these really big, I mean, honestly, scary life transitions. Like, the whole premise of like getting married, the world shutting down and your industry that you are namely involved with, the main industry you're involved with, gets essentially, axed in the middle of this global pandemic. And, and then you were on this journey to becoming a mother and building a business and all of these things. And so, you speak about them so eloquently and so beautifully. And I just am curious as to how you developed this sort of trust or confidence to be able to move through those transitions with such like grace and compassion for yourself. Because I think that like so many people, especially the people who listen to this show, are probably on their own journeys of transitions or self-development or what have you, and or just evolution. And I just find that so like comforting and really beautiful that you speak about these transitions so in such a lovely, like loving way. So I would love to know just kind of what that journey to maybe developing that confidence in yourself or in something greater has looked like.
Yes, I'm going to try to answer this question in a beginning, middle, and end way, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
It's
Um,
totally fine. This podcast is all about rambling and just talking about whatever the fuck. So you do your thing.
because this is seriously probably one of my favorite things to talk about. The
Amazing.
only reason I feel like I have kind of maybe not, I don't know. Nowadays, what I'm trying to say is nowadays we see meditate, morning
Of
routine,
course.
body sculpting, all the things that you have to do to feel good in your body. To me, it was ugly crying and like deep, profound meditations that were transformative where I couldn't talk to anybody the rest of the day and just like, witnessing my inner child and like going through all these things like so I put in the work was what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say. Like I put
Mm-hmm.
in, but it was a lot of work that took place in my before I met Shane. I was just renting a room in Harlem and I was newly single. And I was just kind of exploring a side of myself I had never really explored. This is kind of when I started getting into teaching fitness. I was really diving into spirituality and like my deeper connection to a greater power, which has always existed. And my intuition, I have to say, I'm very, very privileged with a very deep connection to self and intuition. I always have been. And
Yeah.
so the explorative phase for me was like hot yoga classes, meditation, putting my body through a lot of challenging things, becoming a fitness instructor,
Mhm.
diving deep into like powerful meditative journaling, all these things to allow something to come through. And I I think that I started to move through the world with this connectedness
Mm-hmm.
and this idea that I'm not moving through the world with goals. I'm moving through the world with like following a vision. I'm
Mm.
following my vision. I'm following a dream. I'm following something that feels right to me. I'm not like a planner following, oh, I'm not checking this off the list, this.
Yeah.
And in that respect, I feel like if something were to come up and like create curiosity to me, I would take that as like okay, I'll lean into that. And I felt so connected um, to force, energy, whatever you want to call it, that it allowed me to move through the world with this like air of confidence in my decisions, even though I was kind of just like testing things out and trying things out. And and that work that I did is how I was able to move through this epic like transformative time where I went through an identity crisis, and I was, now I'm engaged, and I'm planning a wedding, and
Ah,
what about my acting life? But I'm going to be an entrepreneur as well. I kind of like felt like I had the tools already. I already had the tools. I already had the cards to pull. I already had the contacts. I already had my inner truth to connect to, my rituals, my yoga practice, my, whatever. And I have to say, like, I put in the work then. Even now, I have to say, like, being pregnant, I feel like I should be meditating more. I should be journaling more. Like, I'm not showing up for myself in the same way that I used to in those rituals. But I think that this type of transformation has been hard to speak to in real time because
mm-hmm.
every day is so different.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm just letting her, baby girl, like, do her thing and make me feel something in the moment. And if I want to journal, I'll journal about it, but maybe it's like a week later or a month later. You know what I mean? It's hard to speak
Yeah.
to it in real time because I am a different person than I was at the beginning of this pregnancy internally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, that makes total sense that you would maybe reflect on it later on down the road, or there would be some kind of like, major discovery that you have, maybe in 3 months or 6 months, or maybe it's 3 years or whatever. But that makes
Yeah.
total sense to me that that would be sort of the journey that you would go on while creating a literal another human being. So that makes total sense to me. I love that. And I just love like hearing you speak about your life's transitions is one of my favorite things about you. And it's one of my like, I like could watch all of your shit all day talking about those life transitions that you've been through and just kind of how they've manifested and like just how you've handled them. And I think you're so dead on that people have sort of a misconception about what it entails in terms of quote the work.
Mhm.
And it's not pretty and it's not like cut and dry and it's not one size fits all. It's all over the place and it's hectic and crazy and messy. And it's something that it's the commonality between every single person I interview is that there is this sort of like messiness in their life that happens and it
Mhm.
does not happen just once, it happens multiple times, and it's sort of the what I refer to as kind of the undoing or the unlearning, the unbecoming. I speak to that in my own way when I was done with pageants. Like that was a and when I
Mhm.
moved to New York, that was a time where it was such an undoing and total unbecoming of self, total identity crisis. So the question I always pose to the women who come on the show is we talk a lot about the concept of undoing. We talk a lot about how every woman kind of has to be like unearthed in some way to become who she's meant to be. And I want to know about like if there was a specific moment in your own undoing or unbecoming that you look back on now and you're like, that was it. That was the moment that, or the period in time, the 3 months or whatever, that I was really dealing with the unbecoming, the undoing, the unlearning.
Uh, well, I think perhaps we're always entering these checkpoints of life where like there is an undoing.
Mm,
And maybe the way I am digesting what you're saying is like something has to die in order to be reborn and like that
absolutely.
transformative time. And I've
Yes.
had a handful of those times in my life. And I think that's also where my trust comes in,
Yeah.
where I am such, and I don't know if this is the Gemini in me, I don't know what this is in me, but I'm kind of obsessed with transition. I also love meeting people when they're in like a transitional phase.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's go in there, let's get excited. Who's dying and who's coming back to life? I get like so into it. And so when it comes to my life, I kind of get like wrapped up in my story as well and my transitions. I have to say the most recent one is kind of what I'm coming out of right now. Um, I just fought and fought against what was naturally happening um, in the acting world for me.
Mm,
And I'm not saying this in a boo-hoo way at all.
totally.
Um, the faucet just turned off. It was something that was like, I can't explain it. It was like an energetic situation where it was just kind of like I could feel it like at this like pause. I could just feel it. It like there was no inspiration happening to me. There was no momentum to ride. There was nobody or show or anything that was like showing me the way. There was no anything. And up until that point, it had been my guiding light. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
moving to New York and the college I went to and getting out of my childhood home, like it had just been my guiding light was this you know this path. And all of a sudden it was just like the path had literally come not to an end. I don't think my story is over in this world whatsoever because my heart is still involved and I'm still here on planet Earth, so like story's not over. But I really felt like it just did a like I literally like just crossed the median in the highway and I'm like I'm
Mm,
over here now.
totally.
And um and that undoing was really not pretty.
Yeah,
And
totally.
not I think it was especially not pretty because I was in denial of it for so long.
Mm,
Like I
mhm.
wasn't radically accepting the fact that I had all these amazing other like little sparkly things happening over here. I was dwelling in nostalgia of what could have been.
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
So yeah, and that was about a year and a half of me like in inner turmoil with it.
Yeah, for sure. It's so fascinating to me when I ask that question because like I said, the common theme for almost all women is that, there's this huge loss of self during this time.
Hmm.
And there's sort of this like, there's almost always a resistance. There's almost always this like fighting back in a way like this, I'm not done here. This shouldn't be over. This, not saying that yours is over, but, this sort of
Yes.
deep resistance towards this
Hmm.
thing needing to maybe even, just take the back seat for a while, not necessarily be removed, but just kind of take a break. And it's almost always where the most insanely magical thing happens in their life when they just
Hmm.
totally accept it. And that has been the common theme amongst every single person I have interviewed and asked that question to, is that something like totally magical and amazing happens the minute that they just reach a point of being like, yep, I see you. I understand this for what it is. And I'm going to accept this now. So I love that. Um, I want to kind of switch gears and talk
Let's
about
do it.
SoulAwell. So, okay, you built a fucking business during a global pandemic.
I feel like
And
there's a couple of us out here who can say the same thing, right? We're just like, what do we
that
do?
is
Create
so
something out of
amazing.
nothing. Yeah.
It's so cool. And I love SoulAwell's mission. I have a SoulAwell product and I love it. And I actually literally just wore it the other day when I was doing a workout because my back has been in so much pain lately. So bless you for your products.
Oh.
So I want to talk about just like where the inspiration for that came from, building that during a pandemic, just what that evolution has looked like from inception to now.
Yes. So once again, there was space. There was lots of space that came
Yeah.
into my life, as it came into a lot of people's lives. And we had to kind of start creating stuff out of nothing. And this is a direct extension of my I guess no one can really be your guru, but like another personal guiding light that I've always had my whole life is movement.
Mm.
um Even when I was a little girl, like I would literally tell myself, okay, just run away from home, quote unquote, and I would like get my iPod out and I would just go outside and go running. Like I would call it I'm running away from home. Like I'm just and I don't know, I didn't know what it like physically was doing to me at the time, but I just knew I felt so much better. And then that evolved into me really getting into like the gym world and, all these things. So that part of me has always been there. Now, when the pandemic happened, all we could do was go for a run. So, our gyms were closed, all these things.
Yeah.
And so I would just like run. I would make playlists, and that would be like my thing. And then the running turned into, well, on my run, I'm going to stop at the Trader Joe's. And then I'm just going to, carry all my bags back because we can't get into a car. So this is my ultimate workout is I'm just going to run, go to the Trader Joe's, get my bags, come back, but I need to carry my stuff. So all this to say, the product that I first came out with is the active lifestyle belt that is designed for running. It can hold a water bottle. That is the main difference in this product, is that it can hold a water bottle and still endure high intensity running. But at this point, I have lots of hikers, bikers, walkers, dog walkers, even skiers. And I just got a review from a 71-year-old woman who has one in her winter home and her summer home. And I'm like, love this for you.
What a queen.
Yeah, what a queen. And to be honest, when I first started this idea, the idea was planted in me from Shane, my husband, who I think is a little bit psychic. He said, I think you should get into selling things. You could get into e-commerce, you could get into, selling products. And so I, had so much space in my day, and I kind of agreed to taking a class, excuse me. And the class was almost 6 months long of modules.
Wow.
That just really taught you how to find a manufacturer, find like how to find the perfect product, how to get samples made. It was kind of like build a product for dummies kind of a class.
Yeah, that's
And what set me apart though in the course was the fact that I actually had a personal passion, and this was something that I actually personally felt connected to. Some people sold spatulas. They thought if that's gonna make me money, I'll sell towels. For me, this was something that I personally like wanted to design, put in time and effort, and I had no thought of what would happen after I launched. I just wanted to launch something, have it be an extension of where I was in my life. And Sola is actually the female conjugation of solo, meaning alone, on your own. And you have to remember, up until that point, I was not married yet, but I already met Shane. But up until that point, I had been doing all that spiritual work and all that like intense solo work on myself. And even though I really love fitness and I love group fitness, when it comes to actually like movement and what it does for you, it does something for you when you're by yourself, right? When you're like, when you're in your head with your headphones, when you're at the gym or you're just, running outside, you're by yourself, like that's where the transformation comes from. So Sola, and then well, short for wellness products. And so that's kind of where the name came from. And within the first 2 months, I sold out of the 1,000 units. And I was like, well, I guess I got to buy more. And
that's amazing.
And so it sustained itself. Within the next year, I came out with the lower back compression belt that's designed for hip and pelvic alignment. Also great for people who are expecting moms, because, got to keep your stuff in check.
Such a good product. Oh my God.
Yeah. And it is designed for low impact workouts. So even though you can wear it while you're sitting, driving, whatever, you can also wear it for yoga and Pilates. And it's just a really good way to kind of alleviate that lower back dull ache, pains, all that stuff.
Yeah. Oh my God. So amazing. I just love that. And I love that you are so personally connected to your brand. I think that is such a miss for most brands out there, is that like people aren't, there really is not a huge personal connection to them. I put this together the other day I was talking to Ty, and I was like, he was sort of asking me like, so what's the ideal persona that's a guest on your show? And I was like, well, it's definitely like female centered, that's not to say that I won't have male identifying guests on or anything like that. But, I was like, it's definitely more female forward. And I said, and actually, now that I think about it, every single guest I've had on the show runs runs a business. Every single woman that has been on runs a business of her own. And every single woman that runs said business has a personal tie to whatever she is selling. And so I just love that I think that's something that's missing from so much of
Mhm.
like where we put our dollars is, there's no personal connection from the person to the brand. So you've kind of like infiltrated your own being into this little baby of yours, which I just love. So where do you see, what is your ultimate vision for SOLAWELL, and where do you see it going in the next few years?
Oh my gosh. Uh,
Probably a loaded
I
question too.
no, see, this is where I feel like I have to turn my like artsy whimsical brain off for a little bit because I have to like think about scaling and what's the best
Sure.
next step, all these things. Like when your husband asks you, who's your ideal guest? And you're like,
I was like, I
uh,
don't know. I mean, I guess just
such,
people that I like.
such a husband question to like that.
It is. I'm
Don't
like,
make
get
me
the
don't
logic
make me
out of
think
here.
about yeah. Literally, I just want to have my fun.
Literally.
So so I believe, and I know this is also super woo woo and
I
whatever, but
love it.
I believe that SoLAWELL has a mind of her own as well.
Yes, of course.
I think that the idea already existed, and if I didn't think about doing this, somebody else would have done it. So that's just how I think about. I think that's also talked about in Elizabeth Gilbert's book, like the
Yes,
way she like perceives
Maggie.
ideas. I
Mhm.
100% have seen it happen in my life enough times to be like, this is so true.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like this was an idea that came above me and I took it and it was personal to me and I was able to be the vessel for it. So, in being the vessel for it, I also have to wait and see what it wants to do and what it wants to
Yeah.
be. Um, I, for SoLAWELL, the idea really of expansion would mean I would love for it to be sold in stores.
Yes.
And I would also love to continue to add more products to the
Mm.
business, especially in the compression side.
Yes.
Uh, I think that that would be a really next cool venture. And I would also look to hire
Yeah.
some people. That would be like I think in the next year or two something I would be focusing on. And then as far as bigger picture, the bigger picture is just that I can continue to pour into this with my passion of wellness and and having an active lifestyle and hoping that it continues to grow in that way, whether it looks like a studio space or whether that looks like it's its own umbrella of many other products.
Yes.
I want to be there for it in all of its evolution.
Oh my gosh, I love that. What a lovely and beautiful way to speak about business. Like a topic that is so in my eyes, I'm like, boy, business is so fucking boring. Like, I'm
So
like,
boring.
I'm like, that is just such a lovely way of like talking about your business. I love that. And not to mention you have a Shane is a pain specialist doctor, correct?
Yes, he
So
is. Yes, he
perhaps
is.
infiltrating into doctors' offices as well might be a step for you. So,
Yes, the idea of us coming together as a brand is something that I would love to continue to feed. I think that what he does for his patients, I think he truly is like a miracle worker and one of the best in the world. But that's just not me even seeing his wife. I see him every single day putting in the time and effort, and
yes.
um he definitely inspires me.
I actually recently followed Shane on Instagram on his like
No.
medical account. Okay, and I
Yeah.
love his content. Okay, he posts the best
Yeah.
shit. I really love his stuff. It's
He's,
so
you know
informative.
what, yeah, you know what? I think that he also is seeing that there's like this untapped venue of, especially with pain specialists, it's all about procedures.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he really wants to take the, holistic approach.
Yeah.
And before you go and get that epidural and before you get that injection, let's really chat about like what's going on in your body. Like let's get you back and doing the things that you love and in a healthy way that's going to sustain your longevity, not
Yeah.
just a quick fix.
Yeah.
And he really devotes himself to his patients in that way. And Yeah, the lower back compression belt is definitely something that came from a personal pain that I had. And then also from him just knowing more about products and pain relief. So that was almost like a duo effort
Yeah.
there.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's so neat. And
Hmm.
that is such, I think, an untapped market. I very briefly worked for she was a spinal surgeon, and I was her like executive assistant, and I like managed her household and all of this stuff. And she was a fucking nightmare to work for, but I will say that she did a bunch of like really interesting procedures that were all essentially like non-invasive like pain relief procedures and stuff. So I think that, but even that though, it was like she was still going into surgery, like doing something kind of surgical-esque, and still would like prescribe a lot of medication and all of that. So I do think that that is a really untapped market and would be just so cool for him to continue down that journey of helping you develop products. Like how cool to have a doctor that can just, it's
I
in-house,
know.
it can help you
I
out.
know. And he's an advocate. He's an advocate for
Yeah.
chiropractors. He's an advocate for acupuncture, but he also is an advocate for, let's do PT for, 12 weeks. Let's get your body in different types of motion. So that way you have like more days to your life in this way. So it's cool to see how in a field that like really, really only succeeds by doing procedures. He's very, very conservative about that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Hmm.
Okay, so I want to ask one more question before we get into the world peace segment. And
Okay.
I want to know, what are you most excited for as it relates to motherhood? So
Uh,
you are 34 weeks pregnant. Is that right?
I'm I'm 35 weeks pregnant
35
now.
weeks pregnant.
I'm about no, I'm entering the 35th week this week.
Okay,
So
amazing.
yes.
Perfect. Okay, so I was close. Okay,
You
so
are
you are getting so close, like you're so close to the finish line. I
crazy.
want to know what you are most looking forward to, besides maybe being done being pregnant, which is totally a fair answer as well. So,
A glass of wine,
yeah,
honey.
perfect.
Just kidding, just kidding. So I have to say something that has been, and this is like another reason why I just think my husband is just this angel in my world that, you know, um, so I didn't grow up with a father figure, and this is not something like that I am like I define myself by. It's not how I relate to anybody else in my relationships. It's not like that's what I carry with me.
Sure.
So much so that I'm just like that's not even on my radar of like how I operate in the world, but it's just a fact. And being pregnant has with a partner who, what a privilege to be born first and foremost and wanted, you
Yeah,
know? Do you know
yeah,
what I mean? So
of
like being
course.
able to give that to somebody in their lifetime is like what a freaking honor, right? Like what an act of service. And it's like that has fulfilled me in a insane way that I never saw coming. And the way that Shane like talks to her and like is so receptive to, you know, a family life and all these things that I like never traditionally had, um, has filled in gaps that I didn't even really know existed, even for me. And it's not her job to fill in gaps for me. It's not. But how beautiful to get the excitement of being like, oh my gosh, like she's going to come and she's going to be like in our image and we can like give her all these things. We can
Yeah.
give her so much love and we can play and it's almost like I get a chance to like have an awesome childhood too in her and like I said it's not her job but that is what really truly is exciting to me
Yeah.
that I get a chance to in my 30s and having a child. So I've had the opportunity to be a mother to myself for a very long time. And now I get to like give that all the work that I've poured into myself, I can give that to somebody else. And that is truly what makes me excited. Like
Oh,
what a gift.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, how
Yeah.
beautiful. I love that. Like sort of I guess this thought didn't really enter my mind until, well, maybe until I guess Ty and I got married and we started sort of talking about, having a family and all of that, there's a certain part of, I think, people that can, and women specifically, through carrying the act of carrying a child and giving birth and all of that. I think there's a part of us that can heal so deeply when we are in
Hmm.
that early, part of motherhood. And also
Hmm.
like as our kid grows up, there's sort of that chance to like be a kid again in a lot of ways. Like I just said to Ty today, I said, we were literally just on a walk today, and I said, I really hope that when we have a girl, because I'm manifesting having a daughter for sure.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna get like so much karma in that regard, but so I said to him, I go, when we have a daughter, I really hope that Polly Pockets have made their resurgence back into the modern like zeitgeist, because I just kept thinking for like the last few days how like with Christmas coming up and gifts and all of the things, how obsessed I was with Polly Pockets. And I was like, God, what I wouldn't give to like fuck around with some Polly Pockets again. So I'm like, oh my God,
100%. 100%.
so
Yes. No,
yeah.
yeah, I know it truly like I grew up, I'm Jewish, and I grew up not really celebrating Christmas, but Shane celebrates
Right.
Christmas.
Yeah.
And they're, growing up not really in a traditional wholesome way. I don't really have anything that like sparks joy around the holiday season. Like Shane will literally be like, "What's your like favorite holiday tradition?" And I'm like, just blink at him and like I
Totally.
don't have one. Like,
Right.
and it's not in a bad way, not in a bad way. I just
Totally.
did not
Yeah.
grow up with like wholesome things.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
to the point where sometimes like I I like roll my eyes at myself. I'm like, damn, I want a Christmas tree. Like I just like can't freaking
For
wait to put up
sure.
a stocking. Like there's something about it that just like is feeding something in me. You know what I mean? And then I get a chance to like play and be in that imaginative state.
Yeah.
That's what that makes the holidays so warm and fuzzy. And I get a chance to share that and um do it my way. And
Yeah.
that's kind of fun too, right? You get the opportunity to do it your way,
Yeah.
and like that it's your turn.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I totally understand when our friends who have children say that the holidays are like their favorite time of year. Or we have this one set of friends who have a couple of children, and they are like regularly talk about how magical it is to
Mm.
just be in the presence of children around the holidays. And I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, that would be so fucking fun to like put out cookies and like munch on them and like make sure that everything's like good to go. I'm like, that sounds great. So I love that.
Santa's coming. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing. Okay, Jackie, let's do
Yes.
a quick round of World War or World Peace. Okay. So
Okay.
this is for those listening, this is a segment of the show where World Peace, obviously, and World Peace, name of the show, was garnered from my experience in pageantry and sort of the, very stereotypical answer to what do you think the world needs more of, and, pageant women saying world peace. So World War, World Peace is where I ask the interviewee basically about topics that pertain to their niche or their, industry, whatever. And they tell me if they believe that the topic at hand is worthy of world war or world peace. So the first one on my list,
Okay.
where Jackie and I met, where we were just a couple of gal pals hustling who were
Yep.
trying to be artists, and we were just living in New York together. Soul Cycle, the cult of
Ugh.
Soul Cycle. What are we giving it? What do we think?
Gosh, I gotta say world peace. I got
I
to.
know it's so bad,
But
right?
it's so bad, but I gotta say world peace. Like the
Same.
way the way that like I haven't been in a class in well over 2 months, but the last time I was in a class, I was just like, damn, why didn't I think of this?
I
So
know.
it's so brilliant and so good.
I know. I was literally just on I was just on a call with this guy today who he is in his mid 60s, and he was telling me, he was like, so you worked for SoulCycle. That's like, fascinating. Cool. He was like, I've been to SoulCycle twice in my life. And he was like, and I'm pretty sure that the class was like 98%, women in their 20s. And I was like, that's correct. And he was like, I was in the back row and I was just like pedaling away. And he was like, but there was something so magical about it. And I was like, I know, right? It's really
It's
upsetting because
so, yeah.
it's like you want to hate it sort of, but it's like,
Yes.
oh God,
You can't.
you can't. Okay. Second on my list, let's talk about a corporate 9 to 5.
Oh,
What?
world war, honey.
Okay.
Talk about something else that I'm juggling right now, because during this time of building a business and also like being on the fritz of this industry, ended up getting my first ever actual job. Like I actually,
Alluded to this. What is it that
yes,
you're doing?
I got a job with this retail platform called Leap, and we do the brick and mortar for e-commerce brands.
Hmm.
I got a hookup from somebody in the artist world who was opening up a fitness store that used to be an online store, making it into its first brick and mortar,
Oh my
asking
God.
if I'd be interested since I am starting an e-commerce brand.
Yeah.
And I said, sure. Here I am a year and a half later, and it's my very first like actual job where I'm like in a field, working with other people, recruiting. I'm a manager, like I do all these things. And I feel like I am learning so much about being in a business from this job. And it translates really well into how I conduct my own business while I'm in throes of building as well. Because they always say, don't quit your day job. And I totally understand why they say that now. It really has created like this layer of foundation for me, and and I'm not going to be, I'm on maternity leave soon,
Yeah.
but yeah, but to enter into that field where I've never been a part of ever in
Yeah.
my adult life, I see what people are saying. The
A
40-hour
100%.
work week is just, we
It ain't
made it
right.
up. It
Yeah.
ain't right. We got
It
to
ain't
change
right.
it. We got to
I'm like,
change it.
20, I can give you that for sure.
Right.
Anything past that, I don't know, girl.
Yeah, yeah. And don't get me wrong, I found a really lovely place to work. I do love my job. I love the people I work with. I feel very grateful that I found a really fun New York job to get me
Yeah.
through these times and to build in this part of my life. But um I see what these people are going through now, and it's not
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Well, I'm glad we're in agreement on that. I'm like 4 or 5 seconds away from quitting my job. Okay. So the last one I have on my list, and I can't wait for your reaction to this, especially just being kind of in the phase that you are. Self tapes. What are our
uh,
self taping?
it is can it be a tie?
It
Can it be
totally
a
can be a tie. That's
tie?
fair.
It really depends. It really depends. Like I booked a guest star role on Blue Bloods in spring of 2021 through a self-tape
Oh my God,
callback.
really?
And I
That's
literally
amazing.
yeah, and I literally had to in the self-tape format by myself with my little box Zoom camera, improv a fight scene. And it's just like one of those things you're just like, this is what I'm doing with my life.
Oh my,
But I have to say that self tapes have this element of you get to be the editor, you get to be the director, you get the chance. Like there have been a couple of times where I have like rented the room, hired the pianist, like I get a chance to bring in the people, like I get the lighting, I get the makeup and hair. And then there are other times where it's like it's due tomorrow at 9 a.m. and you're getting it at 5 p.m. and you're like, oh my god, I'm in out of state right now, I have to
right.
like put this on a little count. Like it is literally, it is both.
Yeah.
And but there's, you know what, there's really nothing like in person energetic um like that's really where we really
Yeah.
pull from, like, can we work together?
Yeah.
Like that feeling of
Absolutely.
energy in the room. You do
Absolutely.
not get that in self tapes. And it's like almost impossible to translate that in a self tape.
Sure.
And that's the downfall.
Yeah, totally. That
Hmm.
makes total sense. I always have to give a very difficult one to everybody that comes on the show. And that was your tough one. So,
Yeah.
Jackie, you are an absolute angel. Thank you for sitting down and chatting. Tell us before you take off and everything, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can shop SoLAWELL. Give us all the details, plug your shit.
Oh, well, thank you. So I actually, my Instagram was hacked back in May.
That's right. I
So
totally
I
forgot
have
about
a
that.
brand new handle. It's Jackie, Jackie dot, not, I used to not have a dot, Volney, V as in victory, Olney. So that's Jackie Volney. Jackie.Volney is my handle on Instagram, which is usually where you can find all the links to all the things. SOLAWELL.com, Sola, SOLA, well, WELL.com. And you can also find it on Amazon. So shop SoLAWELL for your holiday season, y'all.
Yay. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Jackie.